Okay. Great. So our first slide is just after the webinar today. All the materials can be found at that bit.ly address that you see up at the top, as well as I will email all of the participants that registered for today's webinar the presentation that we share and any PDF resources that we share today during the presentation. And we would love, if you have any resources or tools that you'd like to share with us, you can actually just send it right to that email address and it'll populate in the folder that we're using. So if you have anything that you've already created that you think would be a useful resource for other educators, please share with us. So our agenda today is we are going to briefly talk about the evidence statement and content roster reports, which are two reports that Pearson provides to us for PARCC data. We're going to talk about the new parent home report. It looks different this year. We're going to talk about how you can share that with parents at parent-teacher conferences or back-to-school nights. We're going to share a new resource called a performance level guide that Melissa and I will be working on and getting those out to districts. We're going to talk about the new revamped Maryland assessment site, as well as how you can use PARCC as an instructional tool, and then some initiatives and resources and what's to come this fall for PARCC. So just as a side note, we're working with a number of other PARCC consortia states around these resources. So as we continue working, we'll continue updating and uploading those resources to that folder. So as you can see, these are the reports that Pearson Access Next provides to us as well as the districts to look at the PARCC scores and data. We're going to be talking about 3 of these specific reports today. The parent home report, which you see all the way to the far left, the report right underneath of that to the right, which is called the evidence statement analysis report, and the one right to the right of that called the content roster report. So the 2 reports that we're going to focus on right now is the evidence statement analysis report and the content standards roster. The evidence statement analysis report shows the items or clusters of items on each individual test given. You can look at this report by PARCC states. You can look at it by the state as a whole. You can look at it by district, as well as you can drill down and look at specific school. The one that you see here is specifically for English language arts. So you see on the right, you see some of the writing components and PCR tasks on that. And the next report, the content standards roster, also looks at the items and clusters or standards, but it also brings in that piece of looking at individual students and how they scored points and percentage-wise on each of those domains of clusters and standards. So the PARCC data goes all the way from the top district and school level, so you can look at a variety of reports that show district level data. You can look at student groups, as well as you can go all the way down to the student level and look at the content roster reports. So the 2 reports that we're going to focus on today are that item analysis, which is the evidence statement, as well as the student level analysis, which are the content roster reports. And the other screenshot a couple slides ago showed the other reports that Pearson provides go over some of those other areas in that triangle as far as looking at different groups of data. So the evidence statement report looks at each individual or clusters of test items, and when you're looking at that report, you want to kind of pull in some of your resources. Some of the resources that are helpful would be your PARCC evidence statements and your evidence statement tables, as well as the Common Core website where you can look at the standards themselves and kind of get a feel for exactly what standards and clusters of skills are being tested on the PARCC. So how a teacher can use those evidence statements and tables in their classroom is one to be seen as kind of a cyclical effect where you're using your PARCC data, you're pulling in your resources such as your evidence tables, your standards, your curriculum. You're looking at how that aligns with your formative assessment data, any other data that you're collecting in class, your instruction practices, strategies. So we want PARCC to be seen as part of the cycle of how you're planning instruction. So these two reports, the evidence statement analysis report and your content roster report, are going to help you as you pull that in and look at the instruction that you're providing for students and how you can differentiate and group students based on similarities and differences you see in the clusters and standards that they perform on. So as you're looking at the evidence statement analysis report, some of the resources that are great to pull in are directly on the PARCC website, and some of those include some of the items that you can see over there where it says Part A and Part B. You can look at individual test items. You can look at the performance level descriptors and your evidence statements, and all of those resources are going to be great to pull in, as well as anything that you use in your classroom to plan instruction to kind of pull in what it is that the test is asking, and you can kind of look at how you're grouping your students, what strategies you're using to teach the students those skills to meet those standards. The content roster reports are going to focus more on individual students. So on the left, we'll give a list of all the students that took a particular assessment. That way it will help you group students. You can look at targeting individual students with specific skills. You can look at differentiating your groups of students. You can look at reteaching opportunities for students that may need some more practice or individual help on certain skills, as well as enrichment opportunities of students that have mastered a certain skill and may need more enriching opportunities on that skill, as well as comparing your formative assessment data or other summative assessment data that you are using and collecting in your classroom. So the individual student report just has a couple different names and a couple different titles. You'll also hear it called the home score report, the student home report, student score report. It looks a bit different this year, as you can see. The range of colors is gone. It is now a variation of shades of purple in the scale. And it looks slightly different on the back as well. And so you'll see here just a screenshot of the front and the back, but we also have some of those examples in the folder that you can access if you want to become a little bit more familiar with those before they go home to your students. So on the front, as there always has been, it has the name of the assessment, the grade, and the year of the test. The performance level, so how the student performed overall. The performance level scale, which you'll see is now not orange, yellow, red, green. It's purple, and it shows the different levels. And then we also have the performance levels across the school, the district, and the state, as well as PARCC, and you'll see how students in Maryland performed as well. So it gives you kind of a concept of the school performance and has that ability to have a quick visual snapshot of the comparison. And then on the back, you'll have the performance level specifically for reading and writing, or obviously for mathematics, for the mathematics assessment. And there are the arrows that tell the student whether they met, approached, or did not meet the expectations or the performance levels. And it also gives an explanation of what each of those scales mean. But it's really important to note just a few details. So you'll see that the score is out of 745, and each of the student scores is obviously not at that same range. So adding up the two scores for reading and writing does not equal the test score at the end, or the final score. It's important to discuss that with parents and what those separate scores actually mean. And it gives parents an idea of where their child is in comparison to the school, district, the state, and it's a great conversation starter. We also now have the translated score reports, so it will be in 10 different languages for students, which you can see what those languages are at the bottom. and they're on the consortium website and on Understand the Score. If that is not a site that you've already visited, it's a great resource for parents and teachers just to have a lot of information about the PARCC assessment and as well as the standards. So if this is something that is new to you, I suggest checking out Understand the Score and a number of other sites that we have recommended as well. And this is a new resource that Jamie's going to tell you about. This has come out of our consortia work with some of the other states. So we found this to be really helpful for us, so we wanted to kind of make it Maryland specific and share that with teachers and districts. We think this would be a really great document to partner with when you send home the individual student roster report. It kind of goes over for parents the performance level descriptors in both ELA and math. And right now these guides are grade level specific, so it'll be really helpful if you're a 5th grade teacher. You can send home the 5th grade performance level guide. If you are a teacher and you're teaching Algebra 1, there's a specific performance level guide for Algebra 1. And it also goes over the performance level scores that students can get on each of those assessments and kind of exactly what the scoring rubrics look like for each of those levels. Currently we are working on, this is our prototype for grade 3, and we're currently working on individualizing each grade level and each content area that we have for these and having our curriculum folks here at MSDE add some specific Maryland content information. So hopefully we will have these ready to send out to you within the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're also working on revamping our assessment site. Currently says under construction as we work to revamp and make this more user-friendly and accessible for you. So stay tuned. All of our resources will be housed under state tests under PARCC, as well as a section for parents as well. So we'll be putting up resources that are specifically targeted towards parents for PARCC and for all of our other assessments. And we have a classroom spotlight, so when teachers are working in assessment, whether it's formative or summative, interim, whatever type of assessment they're working on, we'd love to have you share your story, share some pictures, write a short blog post, and those will be going up soon. We're also making sure that we'll have a calendar of events, a Twitter feed for Maryland Public Schools, information for Maryland Formative Assessment. You can follow the site as well, so if you sign up, you can get updated information as it comes out. You'll get a notification, and you will have the AVACET link, and AVACET are those user guides for the different assessments. While we are working on the updated assessment site, we're housing some of our resources on the formative assessment blog, so you can go ahead and check there. You can click on this link, which we'll put in the chat box for you to access those sites and those resources and that information as we are updating. So as a teacher using PARCC data as an instructional resource, we just want teachers to keep in mind some of the following things when you're looking at your PARCC data, looking at strengths and challenges that you see, not only with individual students and groups of students, but grade level as a whole, so that can help you differentiate instruction. Any instructional practices or shifts that may link to the PARCC data as you're planning for instruction. Any other data points that may help you interpret that PARCC data if you look at your attendance, discipline data, any other formative or summative assessment data that you're giving in the classroom, as well as any other anecdotal notes that you may see from students. And then comparing some of that data to different districts give different summative assessments and formative assessments. So using that data to compare with what you're seeing in PARCC. Do you see similar strengths? Do you see similar challenges? Do you see trends in the data? And then any other additional professional resources that you can pull in with your district, working with your team, working as a school, as your school improvement team, that can help take that PARCC data and kind of bring it in and use that as part of your instruction. So we find it really important to understand the data cycle and the data use. So we know that examining student-level data, whether it is summative or formative, helps school decide what modifications in practice are necessary, whether it's at the individual teacher level or on a grade level, larger school level, and lets people know what needs to change or where the strengths lie and where the areas for growth lie as well in the school and possibly in the grade level. So data can tell you a lot. Using PARCC and other assessment results to determine what support students can need. Examining PARCC data taught for the previous, or students taught for the previous year for trends is a really useful way to see what changes might need to be made. Asking some questions, reviewing released items and sample student work. All of these practices can help strengthen your work in assessment and can help strengthen teachers' practices across the school, and find it's a really good way to get teachers all on the same page by examining student work, looking for their own thoughts in evaluation and in assessment of students. So some of the MSDE initiatives, we've done some initiatives with districts. So in the spring, we had regional workshops where we pulled in some of the content folks in your district, some of your assistant superintendents, some principals, some guidance counselors, and did some work on PARCC, looking at the reports, looking at the parent home report, how some of those things can be pulled in and used in your schools with teachers. We're doing our PARCC webinars, and we will continue to do PARCC webinars as we get feedback from you on what you need from us. Any resources that you want us to share, anything that you want us to create, we're going to continue with that. In the spring, we had our MSDE Data Summit. We had about 400 educators from across the state participate in that, and that just brings a lot of people together to talk about data with accountability and assessment and curriculum, and it was just a really great way to pull in all three of those areas. And we will continue. That's an annual event, so look for in the winter to see what date we're going to be having that for next school year, as well as the content supervisor briefing. So every district has their math and ELA content supervisors. So every 3 months they have their statewide meetings, so we will continue to update those content supervisors on anything new coming with PARCC so they can actually go out to schools and deliver that message to teachers. We're going to continue our work with other PARCC consortium states, and we're going to continue to work collaboratively with districts and teachers at the district and school level, because we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want. We want to know what we can do to kind of help make this PARCC work and data more useful for you in your classroom. The MAG conference is coming up in November. We have, that's usually a really well-attended event from our district, so Melissa and I will be doing several sessions on PARCC and using PARCC in a classroom, as well as some work that we're doing with some individual schools and what that's looking like in the classroom. And in the spring, the Common Ground Conference also is a great opportunity for teachers to come and talk about data and how they're using PARCC in their classrooms. We're also continuing our regional summits around assessment, graduation, accountability, and those dates will be released soon. That will be in October, so just before the MAG conference, and district personnel are invited to attend. Last time we had some school level attendance as well, especially school counselors, since we were discussing graduation requirements, and we'll be sending that information out hopefully next week. And we had a question: how can other departments such as special education and ESOL be invited to the content supervisor meetings? There are also supervisor meetings for those content areas or for those special areas. So we'll make sure that that information is definitely spread. We have been attending and we have been working closely with our special education and our ESOL department here. And we're going to continue updating the Maryland assessment site and ensure that all of those resources go out.
And any of our webinars or our information will be recorded and housed on the Maryland Assessment site.
So some of MSDE's initiatives also include, bringing out resources for parents and the community as well. So in the past, we've done some parent park nights. Some districts have asked MSDE to come out and plan some really fabulous park nights where they have hundreds of parents come, and we, just have a nice discussion about park, and then they've done some breakout sessions. And we will continue to look at how we can do webinars for parents, as well as provide more communication materials. That park resource guide that we shared with you earlier is just one of the things that we're working on. And in a couple slides, there's another communication material that we will share with you that we're working on for parents. And then some upcoming, the back to school webinars. Hopefully you're getting some things today that you can take back to your schools and share with your parents as they start coming back to school this week and next week. You have more of an understanding of that individual student report and how you can share that with parents, whether it's at an informal meeting or a formal conference or a back to school night, and just working collaboratively with districts to prepare any communications that we can make that's going to help you guys make your job easier in sharing this park information with your parents and the community at your schools.
So we've gone over a couple of these resources. We have a couple of different PowerPoint presentations that are in that folder about accessing and utilizing the park reports. There's a data review tool that we've used at our regional workshops in the past. We've used them examining park data with a number of different audiences. If there's something that you already use, that's great, but this is a good way for schools to have a starting point for examining their school level data. We also have created a presentation that has way too much information that you can pull the slides that you like for parents, guardians, and community members. So there's a number of slides in there that you can use for back to school night or for working with your parents on park information. And we've also created an updated evidence statement analysis report. A lot of the guides that are coming out, we look to make them Maryland specific and make sure that they're as useful and as visually pleasing as possible for our teachers and our staff. So that a lot of those will be coming out very soon as well.
So I wanted you to have a nice table that you could include if you're doing a back to school night presentation or meet your teacher night. This would be a great resource to put up on one of those presentations. Just kind of shows some of the most important and well-used park resources that are out there, and then who they can be for, whether they're for parents or more districts. And this kind of goes for the rest of the presentation. We want you to take this presentation and tailor it to whatever you need. If you need to, cut things from here, add things that are more district specific, we want you to feel that you can take this presentation and use it however you'd like to see fit. So that's why we're trying to include some things that you can just cut and paste, add to a presentation so it's ready to go. You can share with your parents and teachers in your schools. So these are two new resources that were put on the website you can see there called Avocet. On the left-hand side is the SCORE Report Interpretation Guide. So what that is it looks at the reports that were on the screenshot earlier in the presentation, and it kind of breaks down each of those reports and the different parts of what they show. The interpretation guide on the right, while at a very high level, has really great information for parents. So you can feel free to look at that website, look at the updated parent SCORE report guide, and see how you can maybe pull some of that information in for when you're talking to parents or adding into a presentation that you're making for parents. So this is another resource that we are working on. This came out of some of our work that we're doing with another park state. As it sits right now, this is a website and resource guide. There's some information that needs to be updated because Park is constantly updating their tools. So this is something that we are going to have available for you as it gets looked at and new things are added. But we wanted to have this resource guide for you because this is like your one-stop shop for the park website. The park website has a lot of information on it. There's a lot of clicking. There's a lot of things to look at. So we wanted to have a nice website resource guide for teachers, for districts, to look at and make it a little bit easier to find the resources that are in park. But like I said, the one that exists right now needs a little bit more tweaking and some things changed and added and updated. So we will make sure and get that most current version of this website and resource guide to you as soon as we have it ready.
So I've gone ahead and answered in the chat box a couple of questions. So I sent out the site where all the resources are housed, and we're going to be adding a few other things to that folder. And the beauty of a Box folder is that you can download it right from there. And then also the MAG conference, I put the MAG site. It didn't appear to be pulling up very easily, but that's the Maryland Assessment Group Conference. And this year, the keynote speaker is Dylan William, who's an expert in formative assessment. And I think there were a couple other questions about, I think we responded to ESOL, special education, and there's a question about the performance level descriptors and whether they were in different languages.
I don't believe that the performance descriptors are in a different language as of right now. But that is definitely something that we will go back and check on because I don't know 100% sure if they are or are not in different languages. So that is something that we will go back and look at.
Are there any other questions? No. Well, thank you for attending today. This is the first of a series of webinars, and we'll be pushing out those dates in the next couple of weeks. Because you registered for this webinar, you will get some follow-up information about the different resources and events that we mentioned. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email either one of us. Thank you for attending today.
Look for an email tomorrow morning that will have the presentation that we just shared today, as well as any of the PDF information that we want to share with you. So it'll be coming your way tomorrow morning.
Thank you.